What's up, YouTube? So today's video is a bit more serious because it's about something that's been bothering me for the past few weeks. But before we get to that, I want you to know that this video is actually sponsored by USMLE-RX. USMLE-RX, as some of you know, is one of the biggest game changers in medicine. It helps making learning medicine easy, and there's awesome resources at their website that you should definitely check out. One of the most recent things they rolled out is this thing called RX Bricks, which connects foundational medical principles to the broader picture of things. If you use my code prerakcity, I believe you can get 20% off any purchase. So go ahead and use my code right here, and you will get 20% off any purchase at USMLE-RX. And without further ado, let's get to the video. I think the way I want to structure the talk today is kind of just talk to you a bit about what's going on in my mind. Specifically, I'm going to talk about empathy, and then I'm going to talk about distance, and I'm going to talk about the interplay between them that has ultimately led me to feel the way that I feel. At the end, I'm also going to kind of bring everything home, hopefully with a broader point that I think is probably going to be the takeaway of this video. Alright, now to get to the video. The issue I want to talk about today is the issue between empathy and distance in terms of empathizing with patients and being distant from patients. I've been in the hospital now for about 7 months, and it's actually gotten to a point where I actually feel like I've gotten enough data points that I can start realizing what things work for me and what things don't. And one of the consistent battles I keep coming into is this battle between empathy and distance. Let me explain. Empathy is one of the things that you want every provider to have. You want every provider to realize why a patient is feeling the way they're feeling, and so they can do everything in their power to help them. However, you also, as a provider, I can say that being too empathetic, and this is something that actually did impact me pretty badly this last rotation, is actually also a little bit inhibiting. Specifically because it just often makes it difficult for you to even function. In the sense of, like, think about it. In this last rotation, I was in neuro. There's something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, where someone can literally wake up and just not be able to move their legs. It's just an acute thing that happens, and they literally won't be able to move their legs. And they are pretty much, need to get into the hospital, they need to get treated, and even then, they might recover, but it's going to take some time. And in that regard, it scared the hell out of me to know that this could happen to anyone. That one day you could, there's obviously predisposing factors and things like that could lead to it, but there are people that wake up and they have GBS, and it's scary. And in that moment, when I had patients who had this condition, I found myself relating so much that I often found it difficult to even, think of a plan, because I was like, I wonder how tough it would be to go through something like that. How tough would it be to just wake up one day and not be able to get up? Some of these things that I take for granted, some of these things that all of us take for granted, really, just like that. We are so used to getting up in the morning, and here I was seeing patients who, went to sleep feeling okay and then woke up and realized they couldn't move their feet, and that scared the hell out of me. And that empathy, in that moment, that empathy was good, because of course I was able to relate to the patient and say, oh my God, I can't even imagine what you're going through, but that must be frustrating, and oh my God. But it also held me back to the point where, like, I couldn't really think as much. It actually impacted me, and I had to kind of step away a bit and really just reflect on it. And now, this is exactly what I'm doing with you guys, reflecting on it. There's such a balance between empathizing with patients and ultimately also relating to what they're going through, but keeping a distance enough that you can help them. There's patients with Parkinson's, for example. There's patients who have tremors. And I kid you not when I say what patients who have tremors their whole life, and they can barely even pour a glass of water for themselves, or barely even eat anything from a spoon because their hand shakes that much. And these tremors become such an impediment in their life that I can't even imagine all of these things that I take for granted are things that they literally have a huge and vastly difficult time doing. And so in that regard, I found empathy to be inhibiting me from actually helping them, because I actually felt so caught up in the emotion that I often found it difficult to even just grasp the fundamental ways we could help them. And of course, the opposite side of this is distance. Distance means, keeping a certain level away from your patients, realizing that they're going through a hard time, but obviously not completely always empathizing, because of course it would be inhibiting. For example, if every neurosurgeon who was operating realized that they were, on the brink of life and death, it would physically be traumatizing to them, mentally traumatizing. They have to distance themselves to the point where they can still function. But at the same time, you also don't want to distance yourself too far. You don't want to be a physician who completely comes in and a patient's in pain and you're like, okay, whatever, that's not really pain. And so I'm still trying to come to terms with what exactly this balance is, but at the same time, this was something that I realized I had been thinking about for a really long time and wanted to get out to you guys. Specifically just because I think empathy is something that I think gets glorified a lot as something that physicians should do, but I've been actually experiencing a backlash of it in the sense that it often inhibits me from doing or learning or even helping patients because I'm like, I can't, emotionally this is difficult for me. And at the same time, being distanced probably doesn't help either because you cannot even relate to the patient. You just will treat them and that's it. You don't actually ever understand what it was that they're going through. Okay, so to summarize, I guess the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about this video is the fact that empathy and distance are something that I've been dealing a lot with. And I think I'm trying to find the perfect balance that where I'm not empathizing entirely and completely with patients to the point that it's actually inhibiting me. But I also don't want to be completely distant from patients and pretend like what they're going through is something that I'll never relate to, because I think it is important to relate to them if you are going to ultimately, treat them and make a physical connection with them. So I'm still trying to find that balance, and I think that's a balance that everyone's going to try to find. I think everyone has to go through this, and if anything, reflecting on it helps, and this is something that has always helped me, talking to you guys, and of course talking to the camera. The bigger point that I think all of this really brought out in me, this aspect of empathy and distance, is the fact that we really should not be taking things for granted. And specifically, as I said, in neurology, I met patients all the time who had tremors, where they couldn't do basic fundamental things, or patients who, woke up one day and couldn't feel their legs. These things we take for granted on a day-to-day basis, being able to get up in the morning, being able to brush our teeth, being able to pour a glass of water, being able to do anything, being able to wake up and feel phenomenal, being able to wake up and be able to go outside and just experience the world the way it is. These are all things that I think we take for granted, and we're so caught up with the anxiety and we're so caught up in living the day-to-day challenges, we often forget that the human body is miraculous. And it's just so amazing to me that it functions the way it functions, and I'm grateful for it. How am I even alive? How is that even possible? I don't think you realize how crazy amazing that is. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. At the end of the day, I'm just very grateful to be in the position that I'm in. We all have our issues, we all have our problems, but I'm hoping that me talking about this with you will make you more aware of it, but me talking about this will also be more reflective for myself and help me become a better physician. So I kind of will end the video here. I kind of wanted to get this out there for you guys and just see what you think. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to hearing your comments. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.